Thank you for joining us on Morning Line. How are you?
I'm good. Is this the Woodman?
This is the Woodman, Senator. It's good to talk to you. While we were waiting for our phones to behave, I was talking about your bill, Caring for America's Heroes Act, which you were down at Fort Leonard Wood not too long ago talking about mental health and its availability to our military. That's where I started my radio career, down at Fort Leonard Wood, and I just want to commend you on that, because the mental health care for soldiers and their families is something I think that's gone woefully overlooked as our soldiers are getting back from various conflicts that we're in. So I want to commend you for that, because I think that's a very worthwhile thing.
I think that's right. And, when you look at, like, the veteran suicides, many of them have been to Iraq or Afghanistan, but many have not. The NIH, the National Institute of Health, says that 1 out of 4 adult Americans has a diagnosable and almost always treatable mental health concern. And when we don't deal with those issues like we do all other health issues, so often there's a bad result, the loss of an individual's life that served our country. In Fort Hood recently, somebody who was serving, who they decided wasn't suicidal. As it turned out, he was beyond suicidal. He was homicidal. And we have to be sure we're dealing with that. But just the normal mental health problems that don't make someone violent, that actually may more likely make them the victim of a crime than the perpetrator of a crime, and how we treat those and how we treat families. And this particular bill that I've introduced would require that families get the same treatment that the service members get. Right now, retirees and spouses and dependents can go to the hospital at, for instance, Fort Leonard Wood. They can get treated, but they have a limit on the time they can stay in the hospital for a behavioral health issue, that they don't have a limit on other kind of health issues. And this would just treat behavioral health like all other health issues for spouses, for dependents, for retirees. And we're going to continue to watch and be sure we're doing an equally good job for the full-time force, so that they get the health treatment that they need as well.
Do you notice, and obviously you've researched this and you've been around it and been around, so is there still some sort of a stigma for soldiers? It's a macho thing. They don't want to admit that maybe they're having some PTSD troubles, or even family members, because again, we got to remember, deployment is tough on the family members too. Is there some sort of, do you find that soldiers and soldiers' families are sort of holding back, maybe being embarrassed, or there's some sort of a stigma attached to needing some mental health help?
There is. Now, whether or not it's more than the stigma that we have normally in society or not, I don't know, because I think when you take that same question to the general population, do people really resist mental health treatment or talking about it or seeking it? They certainly resist talking about it, but do they resist seeking it like they would other health treatment? Because they don't want people to know. And then clearly in the sort of macho culture of the military, you think, I can beat this, I can deal with this, I'm tough enough to deal with this on my own. And it turns out that that's often not the case. And, and our retirees are many of them are really pretty young and looking for something else to do, and pretty sure when they get out of the military, they're going to find something else to do that meets their need to accomplish things. And then when they don't, that gets frustrating. And a number of our suicides are from depression of people who've separated from the military, again, who may or may not have been in a deployed situation where they had the kind of stress that our soldiers now have. You got to remember, in the wars we fight now, there's no behind the lines. Even in as we approach the 70th anniversary of D-Day, there was significant time where those soldiers knew that they were secure behind the lines, and the possibility of a bomber getting through the great air superiority we have or something was possible, but highly unlikely. And otherwise, you were secure, where now 24/7, everywhere you go in Afghanistan or Iraq, you had to live with the idea that something could happen at any moment, and that creates a different experience and different stress when you come home than any of our soldiers, frankly, have probably ever had before these recent conflicts and the terror tactics of IEDs and other tactics.
Well, and it's kind of, I think it's a sad state of affairs when I think many soldiers, being that it's happened twice at Fort Hood, never classified as terrorism, always something else, but when they don't even feel safe on their own military base, their places of employment, a military base, they're not allowed to carry, firearms. Some people know that, some don't, but it's a sad state of affairs when I think many soldiers don't feel that they are well protected enough from something happening from some misguided individual, be they a religious affiliation or just in need of some mental health. That's kind of sad to me.
Well, I think that's exactly right. And a military base in the United States of America should be the safest place a member of the military or their dependents could possibly be. And we need to do whatever it takes to be sure we restore that safety. And on that topic of terrorism, clearly Major Hassan was a terrorist. He was a terrorist. He was motivated by the things he was hearing and reading and seeing from other extremists, and he was a terrorist. This last case, probably not, but there you've got somebody with a clearly understood mental health problem that wasn't dealt with in the way that you would hope it would have been dealt with, and people's lives were lost because of that. But we need to secure our military bases. I frankly think that the military needs to revisit the issue of whether or not at least some members in every unit could be armed. The officers, the person in command of a unit, something like that, significantly change the capacity of anybody to come in and begin to use weapons against unarmed people. In Afghanistan, you have to have your weapon with you at all time on the base. Mm-hmm. In fact, you can't go to the mess hall if you don't have your sidearm. You can't go to the mess hall. They won't feed you. Wow. It's just another way to reinforce you've got to have your weapon with you at all time. Is because one of the issues there has clearly been the problems we've had with Afghan soldiers who have been co-opted by religious extremists and did violent things. But I really think the military needs to go back and look at this early 1990s decision that everybody would be unarmed except the military police on a base. We've seen incidents where I think it would have made a big difference if even a few of the people in any unit were allowed to maintain their weapons. And I hope the Army looks at that again, and I hope the military looks at that again.
That was, one of those things, Senator, that the touchy-feely time in the early 90s when the military was sort of being used as maybe a social experimentation that was going on, because I was at Fort Wood at the time, and a lot of these decisions still baffle me to this day, especially that one where they can't arm themselves. That wasn't popular at the time, I can tell you that, with all the soldiers I knew.
Right. And it's turned out to have some pretty bad consequences. And so I think they need to revisit. They should revisit it. This hopefully would not need to ever become a congressional issue. But on the Defense Committee, I've certainly more than once now recommended to the military that they revisit this order, this determination, and see if it really is the right thing to do, because it appears to me that you could make a big difference with just one little change, which was to say, okay, some people in every unit are going to have their weapons with them on the base, and that way you've got a big deterrent that's not currently there, and anybody who's going to do harm would know that deterrent, or most people at least would know that deterrent was there, and would hopefully make a difference in the way they looked at the vulnerability of our people at the place they should be. Again, the very safest. A military base in the United States of America should be the safest place that someone serving us or their family could possibly be.
Well, Senator Blunt, I appreciate you joining us this morning. I know your job is never an easy one, especially, when you have to see Harry Reid on a regular basis, I'm worried about him. I got to tell you, he says some things that make me think your job your guys' job gets a lot harder when this is the Senate Majority Leader. He says some things that make all of us scratch our heads, but that's something I guess that's one of the perks or non-perks of your job. But I don't envy you for that. But
well, it's clearly a challenge, and Senator Reid has done more, I think, to disrupt the way that the Constitution and the House and Senate have traditionally acted than maybe any member of the Congress ever. I'd like to see him to make the decision that we need to get back to where we do the people's business. We do it in a public way, and we do it the way it was always done until about 7 years ago. The appropriations bills are not brought to the floor in a Harry Reid-led Senate, in a body that for all of constitutional history, any member could make any amendment on any bill at any time. We wound up this week arguing that we should have at least 5 energy amendments on an energy bill. It's an embarrassing place for the Senate to be, and I hope we figure out how to move beyond that and get people's work done in an open, public, and constitutional way.
Well, Senator Roy Blunt, I appreciate you taking time out of your morning this morning to join us on Morning Line. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and please keep up the good fight for Missouri.
Good to talk to you. I'm on the way home and going to be speaking at the Missouri State University Ag Forum this evening for more than the 10th time. I'm not sure how many years we've been doing that, but it's more than a decade now, and I look forward to the chance every year to talk about agriculture and energy and how much of an impact those things have on our economy, and also look forward to being home.
All right. Well, again, thanks for all that you do, and again, thanks for joining us on Morning Line, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you. Missouri Senator Roy Blunt joining us on Morning Line. We went Billy Long, Roy Blunt. We got them all this morning. Folks, you can't get that anywhere else.